We continue live with the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call on the Bordas and Bordas Hotline. Bob Pompiani and Gene Collier with you tonight. One other note, number one Villanova in basketball. That's a really good basketball team.
They win, yeah.
Route number 10 Xavier 89-65. There are a lot of good basketball teams. West Virginia is one of them, and West Virginia will, certainly be right there at the end. They're number 2 in the country. They got a big game with Kansas next Monday at home. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's go out to the lines. We got them rolling here. Bob in Washington, first up tonight. Hey, Bob, how are you?
Good evening, and Happy New Year to you guys. And talking baseball again. Same old with the Pirates. And, they just, I think probably the most frustrating part for me is the fact that they just continue to insult us. And, of course, enough fans play into this game, and enough people go over and buy some tickets, and I'll buy a few this year, but not many. I'll be there with Gene and maybe 4 or 5.
Hey, I love going to. I'm a big baseball fan. I want to see them be competitive. After all, that was what was promised. That is what has been promised, and yet it goes in another direction here. And you can say moving windows. You're right. It's a spin, and it shouldn't be that way. And if it's going to be that way, at least call it that, right? At least call it that.
Yeah, they lied to us, Bob. And unfortunately, the media plays along with this, too, and talks about, we're moving a window, and they're going to be good in 2019, 20, 21. And it just keeps going on and on. And, hopefully a new generation of people will be born and will come up and they can lie to them for 20 years. I mean,
all right, Bob.
Some of us are getting old.
They're frustrated. I see. Jeannie's frustrated.
Well, he's right in that PNC Park is the house untruth built, because that was the whole idea of PNC Park, that once we get this, we'll be competitive with anybody, and that was a lie.
Let's go to line 2, another Bob. We got Bob in Clearfield this time. Hey, Bob, how are you?
Hi, gentlemen. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes.
I thought that trade for Garrett Cole was going to go down today, because if you recall, the arbitration numbers have to be in by Friday,
right.
And they've thought it was going to be, that the Astros would want to put their own numbers down. He said, whether they're working off the Pirates numbers, but I'm like the rest of it. It seems like an organization has no sense of direction as to where it wants to go now in the near future. But I think one thing's never going to change. He says, bottom line, Bobby, is he doesn't care if the one-loss record is in the red, as long as the bottom line is in the black. And until you have a luxury tax. You basically have a salary cap at the high end, but until
right.
you see a minimum team salary.
That's what I mean. You have to be forced to, and thanks for the call, Bob, you have to have some sort of floor. You have to be saying, okay, you guys have to spend. This is what it is. All other sports that have, Gene, we can go on and on, as we've done on the show.
We've mentioned this on the show.
Many times. I don't know what else to say, but it's when you're not obligated to spend anything, you don't have to.
Yeah, as for the Pirates' sense of direction, the Pirates have a lot of really professional baseball people. They're starting with Neil Huntington, who know what has to be done, but there are so many roadblocks in the different directions that they can go, and they're all put there by financial constraints, whether they're artificial or not. But there's nowhere for the Pirates to go because they're not going to spend the money.
Well, that's the thing. And if you get people back and draft picks back, you better make sure they turn out to be not just prospects, but also people who can come in here and turn into players. And I'm talking big-time players. And if you don't do that and you're not spending, that is a recipe for huge disaster. Let's go to lines 3. That's Micah in Pittsburgh. Hey, Micah, how are you?
Good. How about you?
Good, thanks.
Hey, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Pirates. I also agree with the last guy and what he was saying. Yeah, it seems like Neil Huntington, he only cares about just making money. He doesn't really care about the fans.
No, Neil Huntington, I don't think Neil Huntington, it's the owner. That's what he cares about. I think Neil Huntington wants to try to acquire what he can, but there are, as Gene said, limitations. But also it underscores their lack of drafting consistently good. You could look back at what they've done, and you can come up with not good grades based on the overall draft and what it's produced for this system. So if you're not hitting on that, then you got real problems. Gene, do you agree with that? I don't think,
well,
look at the people who've been drafting what's up here right now.
Well, drafting in baseball, Bob, I think you'll agree, is different than drafting in basketball and football.
It is.
If you identify a person coming into the league in those sports, you have a really good idea, I think, of who can play and who cannot. high draft picks in those sports usually very often pan out a majority of the time. In baseball, they don't. Baseball's hard. You never know what people are going to be. The greatest athlete ever, Michael Jordan, could not play baseball, at least at a major league level. So everybody's going to have drafts that look like failures. All 30 teams have that. I don't think the Pirate problem is in drafting, it's in spending.
Well, but I think overall they need to do better in the draft. If you look,
well,
at
they have no choice because they
Right.
can't spend for to acquire talent in any other way. Yes, they have to do better, but it's hard.
Matt in Munhall, you're on. Matt, how are you?
I'm good, Bob. How are you?
All right, what's up?
You know, us fans enjoyed going to the games during those wild card runs and whatnot, but why should we go down and spend the money on parking that's expensive, the concessions that are expensive, and the tickets that are expensive, if Mr. Nothing's not going to put any talent on the field and spend the money, but he doesn't have a problem raising his prices up at Seven Springs or raising his Pirate ticket prices? Like, it's ridiculous.
Right. This is not, by the way, a problem that is just exclusive to the Pirates. There are a lot of teams that are in the so-called smaller market arena who do the same thing. Witness what happened this year with Miami, trading the best player in the game for virtually nothing because they just needed to get rid of the salary, okay? Again, it underscores to me the need for a different system. And unless you have one, you're going to have this kind of stuff go on quite a bit.
And the Pirates continually willingly sign in to the system.
That's where I object, and that's where I would say if I were them, and I'd get a lot of those owners together and say, look, we can't survive like this from a competitive point of view. Yes, we'll all make money. Yes, we'll all be happy. And if that's what they want, fine. But that's not what your obligation is as an owner in a town in which taxpayer money was funded for that baseball stadium. So therefore you have an obligation, and I think you need to go out and make good on that obligation and try. And if that means getting a bunch of owners, can they do that? Would that ever work?
Well, no. The reason it doesn't work, Bob, is that the baseball structure is such that I think you need like 2/3 of the owners to agree to change any of these systems.
That won't happen.
And that will never happen because generally—
Can you try?
You can try it, yeah. But generally there's 1/3 of owners who are always going to be advantaged by the local TV and whatever else. And then there's a middle ground of owners who think they're about to become perpetually competitive. That leaves only 1/3 of owners who don't see any hope at all, and so they don't have the power that they need.
That's a shame. Let's go to Greg in Turtle Creek. Greg, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people have already talked about the Pirates, but my question is, we got these players like Garrett Cole. Now, you trade a guy like that, or you trade a guy like Marte or someone like that. Why shouldn't we get some good players for them instead of draft picks or
prospects?
Right. I mean, I think trading a Garrett Cole, you should get an everyday good player from the Yankees or Houston or someone like that.
Unless you're kicking the can down the road. Here's the thing about Garrett Cole, and thanks for the call, man. Gene, he's 27 years old. Is that right? I think he's that age.
Sounds right.
27. Okay, he's 27. Why wouldn't you want to invest in a 27-year-old? Now, I realize he has not been as good as he was a few years ago, the last couple of years, but the velocity is there. There are a lot of things still to like. I mean, look at the market for Garrett Cole. A lot of teams want Garrett Cole. So why wouldn't the Pirates want Garrett Cole?
Well, I guess the Pirates' view is that the better Garrett Cole is, the less likely they're going to be able to afford him when they no longer have control of him. So really, it's been to the benefit of the Pirates that he did not have a really good year last year. This year he was much better, but he remains the main person in their rotation. I mean,
right.
If you get rid of that guy, you're really throwing in the towel.
That's what I'm saying. And you can make an argument they have enough pieces in place this year where if you augment it and bring in some things, you can be competitive for at least a wild card. But if you're not even going to try, then I wonder what you're going to try ever down the road. And that's, I think, the issue. 412-575-2600. That's the number. We're due for a break. Coming back with more of your opinions later.